Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome everyone. This is episode 21 of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast, and my name is Alex Morgan, and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And in this episode, I want to talk about different things that you can do to be more likable or influential in the minds of other people. Because there's a saying out there that people will buy from you if they know, trust, and like you. So why wouldn't you want to be able to use some of the skills you've already learned listening to this podcast, such as rapport? So make sure to go back and listen to the episode, 2 ways that you can really master communication overnight, because that will build trust. So now we can look at different ways that people can really like us, how we can turn ourselves into more likable people, more confident, more charismatic, more just draw people to us. So that's what we want to look at today, and that's what we want to listen to as well. So there's some different qualities, I would say, that most likable people have. However, liking someone or being likable, it's not something like a one-size-fits-all pattern or formula or strategy that you need to use. Make sure that you're being flexible with your communication with the different people that you come across, so that they can like you, and you can also communicate to them how they want to be communicated to. So the goal of this episode is really to give you strategies that you can use. So when you're speaking to people, when you're interacting with people, when you're meeting people, even for the first time, you can be yourself, and people will notice you and think, wow, I really like this person. And maybe they'll be wondering why. So you can use all the skills that you've learned in previous episodes and apply them to the skills that you're going to learn now. Because of course, I'm sure if you're listening that you want to appeal to other people. Maybe you want to make more sales. Maybe you want to grow your network. Maybe you just want to be socially accepted by others. So whatever goal you have in mind, ask yourself why as well. Why do you want to become more likable? And ask yourself why a couple different times to get down to the deeper part of you that really knows why you want to be more likable. And so decide that for yourself, because guess what? When you have a really strong why, a really strong motivation, then you're going to be more likable, and you're actually going to enjoy being likable and talking to people and interacting with them. And I talk about this a lot in other episodes. If we can enjoy what we're doing, then the results are going to be that much easier for us, because it's not going to seem like work. That means we already put the effort in our mind. That makes that inner work easy. So just think back to some interactions that you've had and think, wow, why did these go wrong? Was I not likable enough? Did I say something wrong? Well, worry no more, stress no more. You won't get burned out worrying about what to do, because in this episode, starting right now, we're going to talk about different things that you can do to be more likable, so that when you're talking, or even when the other person is talking, you're doing things that are allowing yourself to really get deep into that conversation, so the other person's going to feel like they know you, they trust you, and they like you. So one of the things that people who are really likable, what they do is they find a way, they just know how to make a really good first impression. And there's a few ways that you can make a really good first impression. The first thing is you want to make a fair amount of eye contact with the person. This doesn't mean that you gaze into their eyes the whole time. However, let's say around 55 to 60% of the time, make sure you're actually making eye contact with the person as you're speaking to them, and you're listening to them. You remember their name. You ask them questions. These are ways to make a really good first impression. And you're also probably aware of your body language and their body language. So you're using your rapport skills to also make a really good first impression. You have a good state. You're confident, or you're calm, or you're relaxed. You're not nervous. So in order to make a really good first impression, you don't have to think about it a whole lot. You may have to practice a bit at first. However, it's going to become automatic for you. You don't feel like you have to speak so much. Just introduce yourself, be confident, be in a good state, a resourceful state, and be curious. Be curious about the other person. If you can do this, then you're going to make a really good first impression. And guess what? A first impression that is good, it lasts. The person will be curious about you as well. So if you can really impress people the first time that you speak with them, this impression is going to last. Let's take an example. Let's say that you and me were going to go to an event within our industry. And we, for some reason, when we go to sit down at this event, we're sat down at the same table with one of our mentors. And let's say we're trying to make a first impression. Well, if our mentor is talking and we're asking them questions and I'm fully engaged in the conversation, I'm remembering their name, I'm remembering their stories, I look confident, I'm listening to them. They can tell that I'm listening and that I really care what they have to say. And what if another person, the other person I was with, what if they were on their phone, not really paying attention, and they were getting up to go get a drink at the bar and doing these things? Who do you think is going to make the first impression that's going to last? Well, I would, because I was really paying attention and I really cared about what they were saying. So that's an example. It is a bit extreme, the two things that the two different people were doing. However, it can be that easy to just pay attention and show interest in what they're saying. The other way to really be likable in your interactions when you're communicating with people is a lot of people that are likable, guess what? They probably have a pretty positive attitude. Have you ever been around someone and no matter what you're saying, they have a better way of doing it, or they're judging you? You feel like you're being judged, everything you say. If you say you're doing something in business and they go, well, I wouldn't do it that way. Or let's say you're talking about a relationship and they go, well, that's not what I would do in my relationship. That person doesn't have a positive attitude. So if you came across that person the first time you spoke to them, you probably wouldn't be seeking them out again to have another conversation with them, because they were probably annoying you with always giving advice that you didn't ask for. They were judging you and all this. So when you're speaking to someone, trying to make a good first impression and really be likable, you need to show positive emotions. And you can show this with your facial expressions. You can show that you're fun. You can have a nice smile, because chances are, if you're speaking to them and you're doing all this, then you're going to be more likable. If you have positive emotions and you're showing confidence, people are going to pick up on this and they'll feel better around you. And naturally, they'll want to be like you, especially with rapport. Rapport is a way for us to be like each other. So if you can unconsciously just always be having this confidence and these positive emotions, these resourceful states, then people are going to want to be in those states with you and they'll feel good. And we always remember how people make us feel. So if you're having these really good states, these positive emotions, you're going to be more likable because others will naturally want to be like you too. So think about it. Do you consider yourself a positive person when you speak to people? Or do you have a different kind of attitude when you speak to people now? Now, showing positive emotions, this doesn't mean that you can't show any other emotions or any negative emotions, because people won't find you to be the real you if you're always just one way. So of course you can show different ways, different sides of yourselves. You're a human, you have ups and downs too. So definitely you can show other parts of yourself. Just don't fake anything, be authentic. However, realize that if you always have negative emotions, or you're complaining, or you're blaming others, chances are in the long run, people aren't going to want to be around someone that's continuously negative. They're going to want to be around people that lift them up, that inspire them, that help them feel good. And people, again, they'll always remember how you make them feel. So start to do a little bit of inner work and really train your mind to search for the good things, to talk about the possibilities, the opportunities. This can also go into what you speak about. Speak about positive things. Speak about how you can help each other, how you can provide value for this other person. That's going to boost their mood. This is going to make them feel good. So that's another way that you can really be more likable. And the third way is never go for perfection. One of the biggest things that we teach in NLP, especially on the first day, we talk about excellence. In NLP, we want to be excellent at everything that we do. And this can include being more likable. Why not be excellent at this too? So I'm sure you know people who always want to be perfect. And after a certain amount of time, it gets kind of annoying to be around them because it never stops. They're never satisfied. They're always trying to do something else. And then they get frustrated. Then they have those negative emotions. However, when you're going for excellence and people can see that you're being the real you, because if you're trying to be perfect all the time, that's not necessarily a real person. That's someone who's trying to do something that they're not, because it's pretty much impossible to be perfect. And that's just going to lead to stress and other things. So when you're going for excellence, this means you're going to do the absolute best you can at that time, in that conversation, in that interaction. And if you're genuine about it, people are going to notice the effort that you're putting out. And they're probably going to like that because you're being honest, you're being trustworthy, you're being transparent, you're being open. This will really help you relate to others. And if you reveal different sides of yourself, that you're not perfect, through telling different stories, this is going to show people that you're more likable. Because other people, if you're trying to be perfect, then they may be actually scared to open up, or they might not be able to keep up with that perfect image that you have. So if you're showing how real you are and how vulnerable you can be, and even to own up to your mistakes, because if you go and you're trying to be perfect, you're not owning up to your mistakes. You're a human again. So own up to your mistakes. Things are going to happen. You can share an embarrassing story, and then you can say how you recovered and laugh at it. Make jokes about it. So really show that you're being excellent. However, you have no intention of being perfect, because other people, they really don't want to be around people that want to be perfect all the time. They want to be around someone who's genuine. And another way to be more likable is you need to let others speak. One of the easiest ways to be more likable is by letting others speak, because guess what? One of the things that people love to do is they love to talk about themselves. In fact, there's even been studies showing that people love talking about themselves so much that it can boost the same amount of happiness hormones, such as earning lots of money, kissing someone, or eating really, really, really good food. So people who are likable, they let other people talk about themselves. So what can you do here? Of course, you can ask really good questions to show that you're actually interested in the other person. And then listen to what they're saying. Don't just ask questions. Make sure you're listening so you can even dig deeper, because people, they want to talk. They want to talk about themselves. They want to talk about their interests, their passions, their family, their friends. So you need to allow other people plenty of space to share things about them, to share stories, all of that. And the thing is if you give someone enough time to talk about themselves, then chances are they'll want to meet up and talk again. So let people share how they're feeling, what they're doing. This really, again, there's studies on this that show when we let other people talk about themselves, then we can really use this to our advantage to be more likable, because people will be more drawn to us. Dig deeper. If you don't think you have all the information of the question that they ask, say, hey, you know what? That's really cool that you said that. Repeat something that they said to you, and then say, hey, can you tell me a bit more about that? I just really want to understand. I can tell you're really passionate about it. Let me know a bit more so I can totally understand what you're saying. So that's a little language pattern that you can use to get more information out of people. It's super simple. Just, hey, tell me a little bit more about that. So another way that you can be really likable is you can have a sense of humor. So oftentimes, think about it. How many times have you been around someone that's really funny and you just can't wait to be around them again? I mean, many people that are married, chances are they find their spouse really, really funny. And people who are funny, they're usually well liked by their boss or even their colleagues or their business partners. There's even research with this that when people are actually looking for new friends or romantic partners, we're actually looking for a sense of humor. So when you first get to know someone, you can use a certain level of humor so then they can like you. One of the things that always happens is sometimes it's just me and my wife, we're sitting around and she'll randomly ask me, hey, what's something really funny that I did? And then we start to remember all these really funny times. They're funny to us, at least, because we were there. Maybe to other people, they wouldn't be so funny. And then we can have a really good laugh together. Just laugh at some different small things, laugh at our mistakes, laugh at our silliness or things that we've done together. So when we can find the humor in small little amounts, this is going to allow people to open up to you because they don't see you as this serious person who is going to judge them. If you have a sense of humor, people are going to be more open to point different things out and tell you different things. So I'm sure you've had a friend as well who always makes such good jokes and you just can't wait to be around them again and again. And also people who are likable, we show a certain amount of empathy. So we're able to kind of respect that other person's model of the world. It doesn't mean that we totally have to, if they're feeling negative emotions, go in and feel those negative emotions for them. However, we need to show a certain amount of interest in their challenges and their problems and really try to figure out, hey, what is this person doing? How are they actually feeling? And can we help them with this? So this shows that we care. We're not being fake. We're being real. We're really just trying to get to know this other person. We're trying to understand why they feel this way and how they can really feel something different. Because maybe we can, just by listening, we can guide them to feel something else instead. And this will allow us to be more likable because they trust to tell us these things. So we can show our empathetic side to people. And I think people really appreciate this in the long run, that you care, that you're trying to understand how they feel and what they're going through. Because maybe what they're telling you, they haven't really told to many people. So if you show empathy, then people are really going to like you. And another way to be really likable is you can share some personal stories. So it's always good to share some personal stories because this is going to bring out emotions in you and the other person. And through stories, you can even insert how you want the other person to feel by using those words in the story. So if you want them to feel good, you could say in the story, oh, at this point, I was doing this and I was just feeling so good. This doesn't mean that you need to tell story after story after story. However, telling stories is a great way to create a lasting connection with someone because our unconscious mind, it loves metaphors. And the good thing about metaphors is our unconscious mind can then create meaning out of them. So when we're telling stories, we're going to be having direct access to their unconscious mind, and then they can create meaning of what the story means to them. So if you are open to sharing some personal stories, don't feel like you need to be closed off. Tell some stories. This will definitely make it so you're more likable. And the last way, the thing that we need to do is we really need to listen and ask a lot of questions. So if you're asking a lot of questions, make sure you're listening to the answers. People who ask a lot of questions tend to be more likable than people who don't. So if you're telling a story, let's say, during a conversation, and someone says something like, oh, that's cool. Would you find that interesting? You probably wouldn't want to talk to them all the time. However, what if you were telling a story and people were asking you really genuine questions about what you were doing in that story or why that story meant so much to you and things like that? They would probably be much more likable. You would remember that they asked you those questions, that they asked you to elaborate on your story. if someone just says, "Oh, that's cool," you would think, okay, this was a really personal story of mine, and I thought it would be more than cool. I was kind of trusting this person telling them that. So when people are telling you stories or you're talking to people, ask questions and then listen. Show them that you're listening. Don't have your phone out. Don't be distracted. Actually pay attention to them. Make that eye contact like I talked in the very beginning, and that's how you'll make a good impression. That's how you'll have a good conversation, and that's how people will see you as more likable. And when people like you more, there's going to be plenty of benefits. You can have new friends. Maybe you can find a romantic partner if that's what you're going for. Maybe you can network really well in business, or maybe this can really help you grow your business, build relationships so you can get more sales, more referrals, and all the things like this. So there's many benefits to being more likable as well. So that's pretty much it for the episode. I hope you have some good takeaways of how you can be a more likable person. And you can even practice this with people you know, or go out there and practice it with completely new people that you've never met before. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and leave me a 5-star review if you enjoyed what you heard, because this will help the podcast get into the minds of many other people so we can overall just make the world a better place with all of these strategies and skills and thinking that I'm sharing here. So thanks so much for listening, and hope to see you on the next episode.